Legacy Her Way. This is a podcast where we explore how women define and build legacy on their own terms. And today's conversation is no different. We are talking with a veteran. We're talking with a woman who has defied the odds to make it to Huntsville, Alabama and start her own business and start a woman veteran-owned business here in the great city of Huntsville. I'm your host, Tanya Hendrix, and legacy isn't just about what we leave behind someday. It's about the choices we're making right now, who we're building for, what we're building and preserving, and how we create peace of mind along the way. So today's conversation is with Shaylene Hawley. She's bringing a story to us shaped by some experience, growth, and clarity on what she should be doing. We're talking about legacy beyond the resume and what truly matters in this season of life. So whether you're listening while folding the clothes, driving down the road, taking a moment to yourself, I hope you hear something in today's conversation that reflects your own journey. So let's get started. Shaylene Hawley is the founder and owner of Shay la Vie, a mother-daughter team and a woman and veteran-owned business here in Huntsville, Alabama. After 5 years as a Naval Chef and 12 years following as a restaurant chef, pastry chef, and chocolatier, 2020 became a critical turning point in her 17-year career. As a single mother, as well as a disabled veteran, she decided to step away from the corporate world and start Shay la Vie, a private chef and elite catering service. She and her family packed their bags and drove across the country from California to Alabama to start a new life and legacy. Welcome to the show, Shaylene.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you as well. I want to start out by first thanking you for your service with the United States Navy. I just appreciate anyone who is willing to serve our country. And I know you did honorably for 5 years in the Navy, and I do absolutely appreciate your service. So I've got to start there, though. I have to know, what was it like being a chef in the Navy? I mean, were you on one of the big carriers? What was that like?
I was on a destroyer, so much smaller, kind of like being in a high school class. Everyone knows each other. Everyone sees each other every day. It's not all cooking. Of course it is. But there's also, hey, when you're finished with the roast, can you firefight or do battle stations or shoot guns on the aft deck? So it's a wild experience. There were times I didn't sleep for 72 hours, to make it to Thailand or Australia or something. I would say it was worth it. It's quite an experience. It's a wild ride. It's much more than cooking, that's for sure.
Well, a destroyer is a good bit smaller, so I could see where you kind of have to do double duty with some things. Yeah. Thank you for that. But I've always wondered, I actually toured. I'm sorry?
Oh, I was just saying it's the bodyguard of the fleet. So we all know weapons and all that other stuff. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually toured a destroyer a few months ago, and one of the things we walked through kind of where they were all eating, and when I saw that you had been a chef, I was like, I wonder how that works, like when you're a chef on a destroyer. So that was interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so you've had a couple of different chapters in your life, but tell us, how did this current chapter begin?
Well, I actually had been, after I got out of the Navy, I went and got 3 college degrees on the Navy. Thank you, Navy. Culinary, baking and pastry, and HR. And I had joined I became a chocolatier, and then I moved on to an actual health food restaurant, completely different twist. And then the pandemic hit and I got laid off, and it was just me and my 5-year-old in San Diego by ourselves. And I had to really think, what is my future going to look like? I mean, obviously everyone during the pandemic, it's such a mystery. Like, we haven't been through this before. There's no question what's going to happen. So I really had to think fast as a single mom, like, what can I do to keep a roof over our head, basically. And I started dabbling with my friends and local people in the area, doing little baked goods and charcuterie boxes for people. And it felt almost like they were waiting for me. I just got such a huge response and so much support. So then I was deciding, well, it's 2020. What else could happen? So my lease was up at the end of July, and I felt, why don't I spend these couple months off, where I'm sitting there with my son, no school, no work, and kind of explored, where should I go next? And I actually thought about Austin, Texas, but that's kind of where Californians stop when they move out of California. And the prices were just kind of the same. Honestly, cost of living. I said, I need a drastic improvement in cost of living so that we can actually enjoy our lives. This is like a second chance, a clean slate, a start over, and I visited Huntsville right before shutdown, actually. And then after shutdown, it was like, I think that's where I'm going to go. The cost of living is almost half. We can actually probably enjoy ourselves and live a life, and I could start my own business and see how that goes. And if not, it was an up and coming culinary scene at the time. So if it didn't work out, it was like I could cruise right into a hotline with the rest of the chefs, but it happened to work out. So I got lucky, and I'm so grateful that this little town I didn't even know existed was able to really set me up and support me.
So how did you find that Huntsville existed?
Another private chef on Facebook actually reached out to me, and I had started mentioning about Austin, Texas, and he's like, have you ever heard of Huntsville? And I said, no. And he's like, you should come out and check it out. He was the one who said it's kind of an up and coming town, culinary wise. You have a lot of disposable income with the high end job market. The cost of living is really low. People can actually afford a luxury like a private chef, so you might thrive. And then when I actually got here, my mom moved with me. She didn't want her only daughter and grandchild to move by themselves across the country. And she had told me that my grandpa Kenneth actually used to work at the Space and Rocket Center back in the day, like in the 60s or so, I believe. And that's who my son is named after. So it kind of felt like a full circle fate moment, honestly.
Yes. Well, tell us about Shay la Vie.
Like you said, women owned, mother and daughter team. My mom is my sous chef. We kind of just provide a luxury VIP service. We're more based on referrals. I like to keep it tight. I like to keep it special. I want my clients to feel like they're the only clients in the world, and they have my 100% undivided attention. And I started off with like meal prep and charcuterie. As a person that just moved here, though, and didn't know a single soul, really, I didn't want to bottleneck myself or filter myself. So I kind of started out with anything and everything. Whoever would hire me, I'm there. And I've been lucky enough to now be choosy, I guess. I love everyone, but I like that my clients think that they're the only person in the world. They love that experience, that VIP experience. And honestly, it truly is a VIP luxury service. And I think people forget that because it's groceries and food. But this really is people choosing, I would say, passion over money. And I mean, it's not an industry that makes a ton of money. It's most of us who are doing it are fully into it with passion. And I've always been on the art side of things. And so to be able to put my art on a plate or a grazing table for someone, and for people, I've had clients who don't even want to touch the food because they think it's so pretty. And that to me is like, oh, I've hit both goals in that. Making them feel special and also showing off my art.
Nice. So as you moved here, and maybe it predates you moving here, but as you started to grow and you were figuring out things that you wanted to, like starting Shay la Vie, what was harder than you expected?
What was harder than I expected?
Yes.
I will say probably getting my name out there. Honestly, I wasn't even really on social media when I moved here. And I didn't have the money for marketing. And, everyone is in masks because it was a pandemic and people weren't out and about as much. So I really had to figure out how to get into people's homes, being a stranger. And I just kind of did the legwork of going online with Facebook and getting into all the local groups and introducing myself. And it happened so that the owner of Champy's Chicken found out about me and asked me to bring a charcuterie board to his restaurant for a Halloween party for the Facebook group Not From Around Here. And I was like, oh, I'm not from around here.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I can meet people who've had the same experience. And what a supportive man. I mean, he sat at the front opening of the Champy's patio, showing off my charcuterie board and handing out business cards to everyone who walked in the door. And then after it was done, he posted me all over online. And that's what started it. A week later, was somebody's private chef. And that family actually was from California, and we became like best friends. It was a nice introduction to Huntsville.
Very good. So I asked you what the hardest part was, but what has felt the most vulnerable as you've been growing?
It's just, I guess, you kind of get slightly intimidated being, obviously I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. My mom has never been in the industry, but she's always been a rock and supporter for me. So seeing myself grow is very exciting. But then you get, oh, you'll have a party for 300 or weddings and stuff like that. And you feel vulnerable because it's like, it's just me and her. I mean, how are we supposed to achieve this? And I think we put a healthy pressure on ourselves with kind of having that wonderment in our heads. Like, how are we supposed to pull this off? And we always end up nailing it, which is a great feeling of accomplishment. And she's retired, so that gives her a sense of like feeling like she's really done something and bonding us together. But I will say that part of growth where you start getting bigger and bigger, I mean, going from someone's exclusive chef where you're kind of just meal prepping for their family in their homes to doing people's personal weddings at $300 a pop. It's, you do feel vulnerable. Like how are we supposed to achieve this? And we do. And it really, you get kind of like this adrenaline rush once it's done. Cause you're like, we did it, there's nothing else to say. We pulled it off.
Yeah. What do you prefer doing? The personal private chef, or you like the big events?
I will say at first I loved doing the private, intimate at home services, because it kind of, I was able to just like dip my toe in the water, I guess you could say, instead of going full out. And that kind of made me more comfortable to leap into bigger things. And once my clients were able to see my services and my detailing and my timeliness and professionalism, then they started, oh, well, guess what? My daughter's getting married. And, oh, we're having a family Christmas party, and things started escalating like that. And so then it became more fun to do the parties, honestly. Now that we're growing and we feel confident and we're like a well-oiled machine, I would say the big parties gives you kind of a bigger adrenaline rush. You feel a bigger sense of accomplishment. Yeah.
This episode of Legacy Her Way is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, helping you protect your family and what you're building and preserve the legacy you are creating. Your family and your life's work deserves more than hope. It deserves a plan. Contact Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer today to make your plan. Well, I want to take you back to when you were making the decision to move from San Diego, because you mentioned you had, I think you said 5-year-old at the time.
Yes.
And so, and you're a single mom, and you're walking away from work or something known, something comfortable, to go into a brand new place. Tell us about, and with no guarantee of an income, like you had to get here and start from the ground, like from zero. What was that thought process like?
Honestly, because it was during 2020, it felt like, what else is there to lose? What else could go wrong? That's a silly mentality, but it was such a thrown up in the air year. It was like, this would be the time to do it, and if we fail, we could blame it on 2020, honestly. And it was hard. And I grew up in small towns, and everyone is always a lot of talk, because it's hard to walk away from everything and sometimes that's what you need. And I felt like I needed a new beginning, and my son and I deserve to live a life that we've been working so hard for. I would work 12-hour days, and he would be at daycare all day. And then I'd come home, and it was immediate, like, let's get ready for bed kind of situation. And that's not the life that I wanted for both of us. I felt like we do too much. We've been through too much. We shouldn't have to just be drowning every day, with our head barely above the water. So, as a mom, once you think of that, it's like you would do anything for your child, so that was the driving force, is I want to provide the best life I can for him on my own. And obviously, when I got here, it was like such a change in cost of living that I was able to provide him an actual home and a yard to run in, and also build a business, instead of just drowning in a condo,
Nice. How has he enjoyed being in Huntsville?
He loves it. When we first got here, everything was delayed. So we didn't have anything except what was in my car until 2 weeks or so after we got here. And
Oh, wow.
we basically just explored Huntsville. I mean, we had a condo, but we didn't have much except for like an air mattress and a TV that the landlord let us borrow. She let us borrow a poker table as like a dinner table. And so we kind of spent that time exploring. I wanted him to be comfortable because now he's left everything he's ever known. For me,
Yeah.
it was like, well, I've traveled the world twice, the military, I've already moved away from home. So for me, it was like, okay, it's just another restart. But for him, it's everything he knew. So I wanted him to get comfortable with it. And we just kind of explored that 2 weeks, going to different orchards for, you pick, apples and strawberries and, going to Bird on the Mountain and overlooking the view and finding the rocket and taking him to the space center where, the person he's named after used to work. So I really did the work on like, let's make you comfortable. Let's see all the exciting things. Yeah. And because it was the pandemic, honestly, for me, kind of being in between paychecks, it was great because there was so much free stuff going on. I could take him to movies and events and all sorts of stuff and really welcome him in for not that much. It was great.
Yeah. Nice. Well, how has motherhood and now leadership? So you have your own business. Your mom is your sous chef, so you have an employee. How has being a mother and having this leadership and your life experiences changed anything about the way you see time or money?
Well, I will say I kind of was already a little bit adapted to it in the military. I scored a really high ASVAB score, and I was not aware that cooking is kind of looked down upon. You don't really need a score, honestly. It's like you either scrape the outside decks or you cook if you get a low score. And I was offered nuclear weapons, and I was like, no, my passion is cooking. And I worked with a lot of people who unfortunately had a low score and didn't really want to be there. So I had to really form this leadership style back then and right out of high school. And I was becoming in charge of people who were ranks and ranks above me. And that was always a pushback as being a woman and also being lower ranked, having to be put in charge of people just because this was my passion. I wasn't forced to be here. So, and then add becoming a single mom and your mama bear side comes out and it's like you just are on survival mode all the time and there's no choice but to step up to the plate. So those combined, I already feel like I had a good background in that and I could kind of ease into doing that. And it's funny because in the kitchen, sometimes it's nice to have someone who doesn't know what they're doing because you can kind of mold and shape them into what you feel is right for your style and your business instead of having someone who maybe, I hate to say it, but like a know-it-all. But it's like my business, like I know you know your stuff, but it's my business and I have a vision and this is me giving everything to a chance. So it's great. She takes direction very, very well and she's become an absolute irreplaceable asset and we are a well-oiled machine. So I feel like that background kind of helped with that.
Yeah. Tell me about your experiences as a woman veteran, because I've heard stories about how women veterans are sometimes treated a little differently or maybe perceived in the public a little differently. So what has been your experience?
I've had that experience. I mean, I became a veteran in 2009, so we're working on quite a few years now. And it's always been, oh, it's your husband, right? And I never had a husband in the military. I was never married. So that is kind of hard. You kind of have to push a little harder. But honestly, I chose a male profession. So, and I kept choosing a male profession, right? Military, and then, the old, oh, women are supposed to be in the kitchen. But when you get into the industry, it's, oh, women don't belong in the kitchen. So it's like, make up your mind. So I've always had that fight of, trying to prove myself in a male world. And you keep getting it, but sometimes you just kind of have to laugh it off. Like at this point, we're in 2026. Women are dominating so many fields. I'm sorry, but if you don't think that a woman
Yeah,
can be
we
a
are.
veteran at this point, then I don't know what to tell you.
Well, and I'll just say for listeners, because I've heard this story, and then before we started recording, Shaylene and I were talking, and she confirmed this has happened to her as well, that I've heard that some women veterans have had issues, like they park in that veteran parking spot, that people will yell at them and say, hey, that's for veterans only, just assuming that men are the only veterans, and they're not. I mean, so I appreciate you, Shaylene, for being a veteran and putting up with some of the stereotypes out there. That's
Yeah.
unfortunate. But if you're listening, please just don't stereotype and assume that every veteran is a male. There are women veterans and there's women disabled veterans as well. And so just FYI to the listeners. So, Shaylene, what
Yes.
is something that you've had to let go of to build a better future?
Say again.
What is something that you've let go of in order to build a better future?
Oh, okay. I mean, again, moving across the country, everything I knew and everything I was comfortable with and everything my son knew, giving all that up, giving up friendships, giving up, I'm even getting out of the military when I felt that I wasn't appreciated and that my passion was dying because of the environment I was in. I gave up that life of, say,
Mm-hmm.
stability, guaranteed medical and guaranteed paychecks. There's been a couple times in life where it was just like, it's nice having the stability or the friendships or the comfort, but you got to give that up sometimes to really make a difference and take a chance in life. And a child is certainly worth taking a chance for a better future. And
Mm-hmm.
um, so, yeah, I feel like that would be my thing that I certainly gave up, was all the comfort. I mean, I was born and raised in Southern California. I served in Southern California. I made sure to get the top of my class so I could have my choice in service bases, and chose only 3 hours down the
Mm-hmm.
road from my family, just in case, just far enough, just close enough. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like, Southern California is 75% of my life, 95% maybe. And giving that up was hard. And I do go back and visit and I get teary eyed, wishing that I could make it there. I miss my family, but you got to do what's right for your family sometimes. And I felt that giving that all up was worth making a better future for my family, for sure.
So, in this season of your life, what does success look like to you, or what does it mean to you?
I feel like, when I was in San Diego, I was working so many hours, and my son was going to a school that did everything during the day, even back to school night. Weird. But I was missing everything. And I would have to call my mom, and she would drive down from the LA desert to even do like a back to school night or a little Halloween parade so that he would have the support there. And I was told, oh, is he being raised by his grandparents? And I just thought that was such a knife in the heart, because they don't realize the behind the scenes, that I'm working all these hours to just barely survive. And I'm having to call them to drive 3.5, 4 hours just to show up for, a 10-minute little Halloween parade or a 30-minute back to school night at 11 a.m. And so for me, success looks like having my own schedule and being in charge of that and showing up to every single basketball game, every single anything at school, every single practice. I don't miss a single thing anymore. And my son knows that love so deeply. And that, to me, honestly, beats, I love my customers and clients, but that beats any paycheck, that beats any adrenaline rush from a giant event. Just to see him, even in a basketball game, look at me from the court and wink like, I see you, Mom. That's the world to me, because I wasn't able to do that in San Diego.
Mm. And I think that's one place that we as women, and it's one of the reasons I started this podcast, because I want women to define legacy in their own terms, or success in their own terms, because I think we do each define it differently, and it changes from season to season. And so I love hearing the hearts of the women I ask that question to, because oftentimes it is about family. It is about the ones who we love. It's not about putting more money in the bank, which we certainly want to do that as well. But it is really more about that freedom of being able to spend time with the ones we love and caring for the ones we love. So I love that so much, because I think that's the heart. That's part of the heart of this podcast, is for women to hear from others like you who are successful, who are building a business, who have maybe moved across the country, and that success is not having all the big events and having the big money in the bank account. It's the ability to look across the court and have your son wink at him with acknowledging that you're there. So I love that.
Yes.
Well, Shaylene, how can people get in touch with you?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram now. Woo! Move to the future for me. That's Shay la Vie on Instagram. I believe it's Shay la Vie on Facebook. And of course, just following me on social media. I believe I'm on Google, but I don't even follow that. Honestly, I've really put my heart into social media, and I haven't had to pay for marketing, and I've really kind of created just off social media. So that's the best way to find me. Otherwise, I'm private. So, if you happen to see a picture of someone's event, that's how you would find me.
Well, and for the listeners, there will be links in the show notes for Shaylene's or Shay la Vie's Facebook and Instagram. So just go to the show notes in order to reach out to her. Click on those links, follow her, know where she's going. And I'll tell you, I've checked out her Facebook and Instagram. And when she mentioned earlier that it's kind of art, it really is. I was amazed at how wonderful those charcuterie boards looked. The food looks fabulous. Really good. So check out her Instagram, check out Facebook. So I have one more question for you, Shaylene, and this is something I ask all my guests at the end. Finish this sentence. Legacy her way means
fighting through the stereotypes, fighting the stigmas, and really putting yourself first and showing yourself off.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Shaylene, for joining me today on Legacy Her Way. And as I said earlier, the contact information will be in the show notes. So please reach out to Shaylene when you are ready and you need to have the private chef. Let me tell y'all again, the food looks fantastic. All right, so in this episode, I hope something that you heard from Shaylene spoke to you, and she didn't even share her entire story, just a limited amount here, but I hope that she said something that has inspired you. Maybe you heard some of your own story in her story. So if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with someone on your social media. Share it and tag Shaylene and tag Legacy Her Way, but share it so that someone else can be inspired by Shaylene's story as well. Thank you for listening to Legacy Her Way. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next conversation. Bye.